Another episode of Technical Explanation Show. And today we have Wayne Meyer from Wisconsin. How are you doing, Wayne?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great tonight. Thanks for asking.
Oh, yeah. And it's cool because when we first connected, I learned that, we're not living too far apart for a little while there. I was in Wisconsin for a little bit, but and that is a small world, right?
It's a small world, and I'm not a native cheesehead. I'm originally from Pennsylvania, and was transferred out here about 20 years ago. And I just thought I'd be here for a few years. Fast forward 20 years, I'm still here. My understanding is you can't be a true Packers fan unless you are a true native cheesehead. So as much as I'm rooting for the Packers, I can't claim to be a true fan because I'm not originally from here.
Yeah, that's what they told me too when I was there. But I was a single guy then, so I had to at least fake like I was a Packers fan, right? Because you'll be forever single living in Wisconsin now.
No kidding.
But so from PA, what brought you to Wisconsin?
I'm in sales and marketing, so I've been transferred all over this country for bigger jobs, and that's kind of the nature of the beast. You start in one area, and to grow, you need to be transferred to larger markets. So, yeah, I was transferred here 20 years ago from Minneapolis before this.
Okay, so they worked you into the cold weather, and then just
yes, indeed, all over the country, and landed here, like I said, 20 years ago. Raised a family here, and it's been a great place to live and raise a family.
Yeah, for sure. Wisconsin's fantastic. I love the pace of life, and the people are just life's a little bit slower there. And it was cool. It's cool. It's like the true Midwest, right?
Yes, absolutely. Well said.
Said. People in Ohio, because I'm in Ohio, we think we're Midwest, but some think they're East Coast, so they're just conflicted. So we don't know what we are, right? So we're just like there's a void.
Yes,
a chasm, really, right? I mean,
well, and I think of Eastern Ohio, northeastern Ohio as Western Pennsylvania. So you are kind of in the northeast part of this. I consider it, but absolutely.
Yeah, that little hotbed of wrestling there, like the Northeast Ohio, and then just the whole state of Pennsylvania.
Yes.
So
huge wrestling state.
So tell us about obviously Pennsylvania is one of the greatest.
Yes.
But so what are your earliest experiences with wrestling?
Well, I'm going to start way back. I was in the 4th grade on the playground, and the 5th grader beat me up. And I said, that'll never happen again. So I went into 6th grade and went out for the wrestling team. And there wasn't much of a wrestling team in middle school back in the day. It was pretty much a club sport at the time. Came home and told my mom and dad I was wrestling. And they looked at me like, what, are you kidding me? Because there was never wrestling nobody in my family ever wrestled. So at a young age, well, at the time it was a young age, you couldn't wrestle before middle school back then. And it turned out I actually had wasn't too bad at it. And I also have a twin brother. So although he was my twin, he was a year behind me in school. So the point is that 6th grade I was wrestling. He couldn't wrestle yet. So I'd come home and practice all the moves on him on the dining room floor because we had no dining room table. And then my brother started wrestling, and we wrestled through middle school, junior high, high school. My brother was a phenomenal wrestler, got a full D1 scholarship to Drexel University in Philadelphia. So he was about 20 pounds lighter than I. So although he went the D1 route, I can still claim I could beat him, but I had 20 pounds on him. And I went the D3 route, a small school in central Pennsylvania.
What school?
Lebanon Valley College.
Okay.
Very, very small.
But people should know the Lebanon Valley. That's good.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. By Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
It was interesting because I went the D3 route. My brother went the D1 route, and big differences. Certainly at the competitive level, but he went D1. Looking back on it, he wished he'd never done it because he wasn't a strong student, but he's a phenomenal wrestler. Coach owned him, told him what weight he needed to wrestle. He was wrestling very, very light, probably 2 weight classes lower than what he was comfortable at. So bottom line is he never finished. He wound up leaving school after 2 years. And had he maybe gone the D3 route where you wrestle because you want to wrestle and you love it, because there's nothing in it for you at D3 level, even at Division 1. You're not going to go pro with it. You have to truly love the sport to wrestle at the D3 level. There's no money involved. It's because you want to do it.
Yeah,
and
we've had a guest on before that had that same exact perspective on it too. The wrestled, both D1 and then found that D3, D2, D3 was a better fit for him.
Yes.
So it's not the first time I've heard that. Probably won't be the last one, right? It's it takes a special person to even wrestle at all and try to juggle schoolwork. But the D1 level is just, you know what I mean? It's every day in that room it's war.
Intense. It's work. It's work.
Yeah.
Work. So, so again, I wrestled through college and then started my career. And then I had a family, had 2 sons. And as soon as they were old enough to start wrestling, got them involved in the youth wrestling program here in Wisconsin. I started helping out coaching in the youth program. Once they got to junior high and high school, I was a fan. And then through high school, they finished high school. And next thing you know, I found myself sitting around on a Saturday afternoon thinking, what am I going to do? Why don't I become an official? I've seen those officials on the mat. I've always thought, man, I think I could do that. It just so happened, and bear with me here, it just so happened that my daughter, I have 2 boys and a daughter, 3 kids. Just so happened my daughter was a nanny for a couple of girls, and she came home one day and said, hey, here's a picture of the guy I'm working for. This is the family. She shows me a picture of this guy, and he has an official's shirt on. I said, what's his name? His name's Jeff. So I called Jeff, say, Jeff, how do I get involved in wrestling or in officiating? And he brought me into the officiating community here in Wisconsin, was a tremendous mentor. He taught me out of the gate all the right things, get involved with the local association, drive to Green Bay to attend the clinic. And just was wonderful in mentoring me in that first couple of years. And I give him all the credit with getting me involved and starting me on the right foot.
Give a shout out to your association. What's the name of your association?
It's the Milwaukee Officials Association.
Okay, awesome.
Wonderful bunch of guys, just terrific bunch. I've never been around a bunch of guys that were so willing to mentor, help, guide, support, encourage. It's just been a wonderful experience. It's just been a wonderful experience, and still being mentored and coached and guided. And it's terrific. It's terrific.
And that area of the state too, the Milwaukee area, because of the influence, well, this is just my opinion, like over the little more than 5 years, that area of the state's got really tough with all the kids that are training at the Askren Wrestling Academy.
You're exactly correct.
I mean, so you got Kakayason, who trained there, who's out at Northern Illinois, I believe.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, All-American.
Okay.
There's a kid, Marshall Cools from Nina, the Nina Rockets, pretty perennial program. He trained there. He's on scholarship out at Stanford. I mean, kids are coming out of there like nuts. And then as soon as Bono got in there, so that area really it's a hotbed where you're at.
Yes, and it's a hotbed, and the participation level of kids could be better, but I think we might be better. My perception is the participation from wrestlers is a little stronger here maybe than some other states, and again, that's just my perception.
Do you think that it's kind of went like in Ohio, numbers are down from youth, junior high, and high school ever since COVID happened? So I wonder if that's playing a role at all. Because
I'm pre-COVID, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, pre-COVID. Yeah, COVID's a whole nother issue.
Yeah,
COVID's a whole nother issue.
How have you guys been weathering that storm? Did you have a semi-normal season last year, or was it limited spectators? Or
exactly, it was. We were just blessed we had a season, and yes, in some venues spectators weren't allowed. Certainly, we were officiating with masks and following all sorts of protocols, but no spectators in the stands for the state tournament. And during the season, if there were spectators, they had to wear masks, and you're only allowed maybe a parent and one other person. It really varied from school district to school district, what the protocols were.
How's the season this year?
It's certainly better than last year. As you know, with this latest outbreak, we had a meeting just last Monday night talking about, hey, let's make sure we stay healthy. Let's make sure that we're able to hold states, that we have enough healthy officials to put this on. So be careful. Certainly don't show up. You're showing any symptoms, because we don't want, obviously, you sick, and we don't want to spread it to anybody else as well. So we're getting through it. We have stands full, but again, we're walking on eggshells right now since this outbreak. Yeah, no doubt about it.
I think everyone is, and the one thing, from a coaching perspective, I get to coach junior high. We kind of try to tell the kids, like, hey, every day you got to have this mentality that we get to practice today, or we get to compete, because you just don't know it from day to day, really. And that's actually, I get to something I learned from a guy in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. He's the superintendent there. His name's Aaron Sadoff, and he taught me that get to, not have to, like it's different. And it, it's a good, when you change those words in your head, it's a really good way to, be, what do you got? You got
Get to getting it, get to getting to it. I have it
There
written
you
down
go.
in front of me, so I see it every day. So
Yep.
I buy into that mentality. Well, get into it. I mean,
Yep.
you're absolutely correct. Not that I have to do it. You're
Yeah.
exact. I couldn't agree with you more.
So you get to officiate, and you have been doing it 5 years now then,
I'm in
correct?
my 5th season, and I'm really going to say 4.5 because last year was really a half season. I wasn't on the mat a whole lot last year. Just blessed to be on there a few times I was. So I'm in my 5th season on paper, and still working my way through the ranks, learning every day. And it's just when I think I've learned something. You never know it all. I will never know it all. As frustrating as that is, I'll never know it all. And always, when I walk on the mat, I still get butterflies. And these senior guys say, if you don't have butterflies, Wayne, you're not doing it. You're not doing it properly. So yeah, I walk on the mat just like I was walking out when I was wrestling. I have butterflies because I want to make sure I get all the calls right. I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing. Rehashing in my mind on the way to the mat, on wherever I'm going. What did I do wrong last week? Let's not do it wrong this week. So, but that's all good stuff. That's what keeps me coming back.
Yeah, I hear you too. I mean, I don't necessarily have the whistle too often, but you're coaching, like the national anthem plays and it's go time. You can feel your hands over your heart, and I can feel my heart, and sometimes right. I'm like, I think I'm more ready to go than my kids, but but that's how I know I'm in the right place, because it's like,
yeah, right.
You can't get that natural, adrenaline rush, just anywhere and get to do what you love to do and help kids. So that's awesome to hear that you still get those butterflies and stuff.
Absolutely.
It says a lot about why you're doing what you're doing, which is one of the reasons that we have this show, is hopefully the people that watch get to see, hey, we're humans, right, too, and learn a little bit about us. So with that in mind, being a wrestling in college, which I think like 1% of wrestlers do on average. So you've experienced a lot of wrestling, then you took time off and you came back to the sport. Can you talk us through, like, did everything come back like really quickly, or was it like a slow process, or,
what? There's some moves that I wasn't aware of when I came back. And so there was some re-education on some of the moves that were being taught in today's wrestling world. But other than that, it's like riding a bicycle. It's like riding a bicycle. Again, the season starts, you're on the mat for the first time again. Man, did I remember how to do that? Get on the mat. Guess what? The mechanics are coming back. They're coming back. So once I got myself up to speed on what some of the moves, how they have changed, how some of the rules have changed, it's like riding a bicycle, no doubt about it. And there's nothing like a half Nelson. I don't care whatever level you're at. There's nothing like a half Nelson and a double leg takedown. So those fundamentals carry through today like they carried through, I hate to say it, 40 years ago.
They do.
Basics, fundamentals.
They do. I mean, Logan Stieber comes to mind. When he would wrestle, he was going to hit a high crotch on you and then go arm bar, and you're going to get beat bad. And and he did that for 4 years and won 4 national titles doing it. So yeah, you can do a lot of things with fundamentals.
Absolutely.
So tell us about how taking the class, how the process was for you. Was it in person? Was it like, tell me how does someone in Wisconsin?
Yeah.
How does someone become an official?
And I only know Wisconsin, so I have no idea how these other states work. But obviously there's a WIA website, Wisconsin Interscholastic Athletic, whatever it is. So there's a website there. You go on the website, you fill out a form, you get a background check, pay $50, and you have to take a test. That's all it takes to become an official in this state. Now, had I not had a mentor, he's the one that said, hey, print the test out, open up the book, and take the test. And oh, by the way, as we drive to Green Bay to go to the clinic, we're going to go over that test, because there'll be a car full of officials in that car. And on the way up, the 4 or 5 of us are going to go question by question and answer them. So make sure you have that test completed before we go to Green Bay. So we reviewed the test as a group, and then you go online and actually take the test. So it's an open book test. You take the test, and then you go online and you take the test, and they score you. There are a couple of videos that you need to watch. An assistant referee, I forget there are a couple other videos that you need to watch. And after that, you hit enter, and next thing you know, you get your card. So that's really all you need to do to become an official. And I've come across some officials who didn't have the mentoring that I did, and there's a difference. There's a big difference, and you don't have to have a minimum score, I don't think, on that test. But it's a pretty simple process. Again, I was blessed. I had some people around me that helped me take the test. And then I didn't know this. Wayne, sign up for become part of the association. You go to association meeting, and then they go over the test. Yep. So there's no reason not to score 100 on this test. But it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple.
So you didn't have, there was no like classes or anything you had to take. Okay. So that is a little different. Like, and I could totally see if you didn't have a mentor that like didn't tell you, hey, go to the association. Like, because if you're brand new to it, especially you moved to a new state, how would you know? Like,
exactly.
How many people really know that officials belong to different associations and they're geographically located? Like, you know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
So I could see,
exactly.
I can see how that model would make it easier to become an official, right? A lot less red tape. But I could also see, like, if you weren't fortunate enough to have someone kind of guide you along the process, it could, it could be like buying a house without knowing what you're doing.
Exactly. Exactly. Plugging into that association was crucial. And also by plugging into the association, the gentleman who leads that association, when schools or school districts need officials, they go right to him, and then he pushes out, hey,
he assigns, doesn't he? Yeah,
well, not even assigns, he just push it out, and then there's a need at whatever school district.
Yep.
And then you're in contact with the AD at that school district, and they send you a contract.
I'm very familiar with that because I get those weekly too here in Ohio. So yeah, it's very effective.
Yeah, and as a new guy, I didn't know how to tap into the network, so this helped me tap into that network. So again, just very, very beneficial. Now that after my 5th season, I'm tapped into that network. This is the first season where I've got all the work I want. First couple of seasons, I would take anything to get my hands on. Now I'm to the point where, hey, I can pick and choose, which is great.
Which is one of the best parts of being an official right now. I don't think people understand that.
Great point. Great. Yeah. But it takes a while to get there.
It does. You got to put in your time, right?
Pay your dues.
Yeah. But I don't know of too many other for higher positions where you could be like, I don't want that work. No, thanks. Thanks, but no, you know what I mean? So it's a nice feature to have. You can't do that with your 9 to 5.
No. No kidding.
So yeah. So it sounds like there's no formal like mentor like process or anything that exists there. What do you think about that idea? Because some states really have that like in place, and it's pretty formal, and it's like someone will follow you around. You're following around and like an experienced official for your first year. Like you're with them the entire time.
I think that's wonderful. Certainly that would be wonderful. Because again, I can see some of these guys with a couple of years who haven't been blessed with my experience. You can tell that they haven't. They haven't had the guidance or the direction, and it shows. It absolutely shows.
Is that? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, and as one ref told me early, he took me to a JV tournament. He said, a ref took me to this JV. It was the first time I was on the mat, and I'm like, hey, thank you. You don't need to be doing this. Thank you. I really appreciate this. He said, look, now it's up to you to pay it forward. So that, again, that's the beauty part of it. Now it's up to me to pay it forward to these younger guys or newer guys. Not that I'm any senior official, but I have a few more years under my belt than some of these guys with 1 or 2 years under it. So try and pay it forward.
Yeah, and well, you have a unique experience too, though. You've competed at a level that 99% of wrestlers don't get to. So don't discount that. Let's talk a little bit about the state of officials in Wisconsin. Are your numbers down, or
numbers are down? Yes, numbers are down. They were down prior to COVID. COVID hit, they're down even further. Yes.
Does the state have any initiatives? Are you guys doing anything differently, or have any plans on, like, how are you trying to proactively get new officials?
All I see is whenever we're at our association meetings, whenever we're at our clinic in Green Bay once a year, we all come together. You hear the folks at WIA, please encourage young guys to become officials. Hey, and by the way, there's no fee. They can become at no charge. Coaches, encourage your high schoolers to become officials. We do have a program to help the kids in high school officiate. So that's the initiative.
All right. So what I heard is I need to get this in front of the WIAA, and
yes,
and I'm putting it out there. Contact me. I'll do whatever I can to help, because I think sharing this sort of stuff can help. It can't hurt. But yeah, we got to get proactive. There's a lot of wrestlers that, the day after sectionals, they're probably never going to wrestle again, right? And that might not sit well with them. It doesn't have to be that way. You might not be able to wrestle, but you could still be around your buddies.
correct.
And the coolest, this is cool, I think. And again, I'm biased here, but this weekend, so I'm coaching, and we got a small team. So I'm sitting down, and the guy next to me is looking pretty familiar. I'm like, where do I know this face? Because I'm bad with names. Where do I know this face? And then I hear a kid get called to the mat, and he's from the school. Well, I thought who I knew who this kid was. Well, it's the same last name. It was a kid that I wrestled 20 something years ago in high school. So I said, hey, are you so-and-so? And he's like, yeah, are you? And we just picked up the conversation like that, and I started talking about officiating. I was like, why don't you officiate? He's like, never thought of it. Like, it's so simple, actually, but wrestlers can have those conversations with other wrestlers. You can get past so much stuff because you have a shared experience. You talk the same language. You've been through like a lived in experience, but it's a family, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is you can hang around those dudes, and get paid and watch the future of wrestling. I mean, don't get much better than that, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah,
so that was my cool story from the weekend. I thought it was pretty cool, that we both recognize each other, and he was cool about it because he beat me too. So I'm glad he didn't write that on my face. Yeah. So yeah.
Wow.
So
it was fun. It was interesting because the way we got connected was through an official in Ohio who I wrestled with in college, and we were friends on Facebook for a number of years. And through that connection, just through Facebook, I saw that he was a wrestling official. And 5 years ago, when I got it, hey, Jeff, my first year officiating. So we shared some things just through Facebook, never called, never talked. And over the years, I've gotten to know him more and more and more. And of course, that's how you and I connected. Hey, I know this guy in Wisconsin.
It's so amazing, though. Like, I'm not one to like vouch for many people. Like, if someone's saying, hey, I'm looking for work, do you got a buddy or something? I'm not one to be like, yeah, hey, buddy, take this job, right? But it's like with wrestling, you're like, oh yeah, this guy's a good dude. He's a wrestler. You know what I mean? And he's like, hey, go talk to this random guy in Ohio, like through Facebook, right? That's weird, right? I mean, it really is. But then we talk, we really have all this stuff in common. And I think that's the part that a lot of people miss out on, or don't take into account of how beneficial officiating is staying involved and giving back. Because if we don't give back, our sport's in jeopardy.
Yes.
I had a conversation, and it's just about the level of officiating. The quality of officiating ultimately determines the level of competition. And no state wants to get worse, right? So it's so important that we have these quality officials that are doing this, and that coaches and inspectors need to understand we're all in this together, and we might be part of the problem here pushing this away, which we want our kids to have a good experience, but our actions are kind of counteracting that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what events this year do you have coming up that you're looking, most forward to? What are some of the things like on your list that you're just excited about coming up?
I've got a couple tournaments coming up, and that's where I focus my efforts, only because my job, I travel for work, and it's difficult for me to do any sort of events during the week. I'll maybe get one a season, two a season. So I'm about getting on the mat every Saturday at some kind of tournament, JV tournament, regional tournament, youth tournament, wherever I can get on the mat. Because just like wrestling, when you're a wrestler, it's about mat time. It's a
Yeah,
bad match.
especially at the beginning of the year, got to knock off that ring or that mat rust, right?
Yes, yes, and again, early in my career, my first year, one of the older guys said, "Hey, just go to your local high school and see if you can officiate the wrestle offs for the local high school." And it just so happened that the head wrestling coach attends my church, so I see him at church. Hey, Ryan, I'm new. I'm coming official. Do you mind if I come on in and do your wrestle offs? And he never thought about it. And he thought,
Really?
what a great way to give his kids. And I said, I'm just going to come in church. And he said, no, I want you to come full gear, just like it's a match, because I want these kids to get that experience with an official there officiating these wrestle offs. So that was 4 years ago. Now it's an event. Now he
Yeah.
live streams it. It's on a Saturday full mat. Parents are invited, and it's an event now. And I give him a lot of credit.
That's awesome. And honestly, that is like super important in our area. Like, we never want to do wrestle offs, because if you're a coach and you officiate, you leave it open to, well, you made this call or whatever. So when you bring in an official there, it takes a lot of that away from it. But never thought about making an event like that. That's
Yeah.
and
Live stream.
the other thing though too is that's another great opportunity. I'm so glad you said that. Like, why wouldn't you then reach out to the local association and say, how many new officials do you have, and make them the ones that do the wrestle offs to give them some of that time?
Experience.
Because in Ohio, they start you off at biddy, right? Which we had before we got on here. We had a little conversation about how difficult it is to officiate biddy wrestling or youth wrestling, even if you've been official your whole life, right? So now they can't get official competition with varsity, but they could be officiating a wrestle off with varsity competitors and get the feel for the mechanics and things that they wouldn't be able to get for a year or two until they get their class one.
Right.
That's
Interesting.
that's something right there.
Interesting.
I think there's some we can work with there. All right. Well, I learned my thing for the day.
I was talking to a guy, and his name, hey Wayne, hey Jimmy, what's going on? He said, hey Wayne, I saw you officiate the wrestle offs. I said, what do you mean? He said, yeah, I watched it live streamed. I said, okay.
Well, there you go.
I thought, brilliant idea. Brilliant
All right.
idea.
Well, good. There's something there for sure.
Yes.
Okay. So, if you had a room full of potential officials, people that have wrestled in the past or just love wrestling, what would your elevator sales pitch? You're in sales marketing.
Yep.
What would your sales and marketing pitch be?
My pitch would be different depending on the audience. Again, sales 101, marketing 1. Who's your audience? Young guys, and my sons, perfect candidates. Wrestled both. They're 27 and 25. Hey guys, here's a great way to earn some money. Here's what I walk away with for a day's work on a Saturday versus sitting around and doing nothing. Here's something you could do to earn some money, stay active, and stay engaged. So for the younger guys, that's the pitch. It's about making a little extra money, staying engaged. For guys my age, hey fellas, you looking for a way to stay active, stay physically fit, to keep mentally sharp, to be challenged? It's a great, great thing. And oh, by the way, you'll pick up a few $100 and pay for whatever hobby you've got on the side. So those are my two elevator pitches. And for me, it was about staying active, getting back engaged, keeping sharp, looking forward to something. Oh, by the way, I walk away with a few $100. That's great. It's not about the money for me, at least for me. There's some other officials that it is about the money. And so, okay, great. For me, it isn't.
Yeah.
It isn't.
I mean, there's no right or, well, there is a right or wrong way to look at it for sure. We're not going to get into that, but I mean, hey, whatever your motivation is, as long as you're, doing things the way that they need to be done. Right.
Yes,
it helps. So again, know your audience, know who you're speaking to, what motivates them, how you're going to get them to buy. Right. Good stuff. So what's been one of your most memorable matches or experiences since, becoming an official, or, what's something that you'll always remember?
I'll never forget. It was my third year. I went to my first regional, and I'm officiating the regional final, which is its regional, sectional, state. So it's the first tournament for the state series, but obviously huge implications. And my heart's pounding. these guys, and we were using an assistant referee. I was with a crew of very senior officials. I was the least experienced, and doing that final match, first and second place, heart's in my throat. Coach is yelling at me. These guys are in a scramble, trying to watch the scramble. Who's on top? Who's on bottom? Who's doing what? And I walked away thinking I made all the right calls. I made the right calls. And my colleague said, Wayne, great job. Good job. So that was very rewarding, but I'll never forget it. I will never forget it. Never forget it.
Are you doing another regional this year?
Not this year, only because I had a conflict, but certainly
Okay.
we'll be getting back into it.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So how, on average, like how many years before you start getting looked at it for sectionals, or how's that determined? Is there a process?
Or there is a process, and I'm a long way away from that. The coaches rank you 1 to 6.
Okay. Evaluations.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And we were on it. We had our MOA meeting, association meeting Monday night, and they announced the officials who will be officiating at the state this year. And there was only two officials from our region that'll be officiating at state level. So it's very competitive.
Yeah.
It's very competitive.
Is that a goal of yours?
Yes. Yeah. Well, not long-term goal.
Yes.
Goal.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm not saying, I'm saying, is that kind of like what you, at the end of the day,
yes,
that's what you want to get out of this, coming back to become an official?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now it's just, again, it's again, step at a time.
Step at a time. So, what's that?
Yeah, it's step at a time. Mechanics make great calls. How do you handle coaches? How do you handle parents? Because what I've learned is with my profession, I need people skills, and certainly to be an official, you need a certain level of people skills. And for me, that has paid dividends.
I'll tell you what, you're not the only one that notices that. So when you talk to tournament directors, I get to work with this organization called the Ohio Athletic Committee. And so when they look at officials too, they look at how do they handle objections, and how are their interpersonal skills and stuff too, right? Because that leads to the quality of a tournament, leads to the experience of the wrestlers, the coaches, and all of those things. And generally what I found, and I have this conversation more times than not with people about, like, if you're a teacher, if you're in sales, if you're a police officer or ex-military or something like that, how to speak and work with people and get stuff done. And you can always tell, like, by how when they're called to the table, you can't hear it, but you can just see how the conversation goes. You'd be like, yeah, I bet you they do something with people. Whereas the other people, sometimes you can be like, you know what I mean? Just by
absolutely,
body nature,
absolutely,
or body language.
Absolutely. And sometimes I see how I've witnessed some officials, how they interact, and I'm cringing. Man, come on. And there's been some guys who have been very disappointed in their ratings. And I think part of that is driven by your people skills. You can be great mechanics, you can make the right call, but man, part of it is how you interact.
Yeah.
And that's that for me, I found. And the other thing, I'm absolutely convinced, it's being humble. It's being humble. Yeah, you are the official, but you need to be humble. You need to be humble in your approach. Humble, but you still are the official. And you got to understand that. You got to understand. You can't be I'm here, I'm charged, but I'm it. Yeah, you are, but you got to approach it you have to come across as humble and genuine. Again, back to skills.
You're absolutely right. Sometimes, and we know this from psychological studies for decades, right? Sometimes you get a little bit of power, and some people, it can go to their head. Let's just put it that way, right? So I think what I'm hearing you say, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, is, look, you're the person that makes the call at the end of the day, but you need to make the right call, and you need to make it for the right reasons, not just to prove a point or that you're
right.
The man. And that goes a long way. I mean, there are certainly folks that are very good with people skills, and some that could use some improvement, right? But I think, like, addressing that would help officials as a whole so much, right? Because it's just that one, I don't want to call those people rotten apples, but that one perception of a rotten apple could lead to a perception of all officials, right? especially
Absolutely correct.
especially if you're having, let's say, a group of officials that maybe aren't the best at interacting in a certain way, and they're in your region and you have them every week, right? You could start thinking, oh my gosh, like everyone has to be this way.
Right.
So it's in all of our best interests if we could all. I almost feel like in Ohio, you have to take a class, okay, but it's all rules. You go through each page, I almost feel like there should be like a conflict resolution class or like de-escalation. You know what I mean? Something like that.
Correct. You're spot on. Yeah. Because of my profession, I understand this humility, being genuine. That's what I do for a living. So for me, it's second nature because of the nature of what I do for a living. But if it weren't for my living, how do people learn that? To your point, if they're not taught.
Yeah, it's about experience. It's just like wrestling, though, right? I mean, wrestling is so weird. And this year it's helped me learn it so much because we have 4 kids that I think the most experience one of them has is 1.5 years. All right. And so I have to be like, okay, not everyone knows what a drop step is. Like, that's not a normal thing. Like, right. You don't learn to walk, run, then do drop steps. Like, no one, you know what I mean? Yes. And so I have to like be like, all right, dude, you've got this experience, but their experience is completely different than yours. So, and that, I think that determines how good of a coach or an official you are, is can you take what needs to be done and translate it to who needs to hear it?
Yes.
Right. And I think that's what we're saying right now is, all right, how can you step back and just be an official, but be a human to that person, to that coach, and treat them like if you were the coach, you just want to know, hey, can you just help me understand that call? There's nothing wrong with asking that. And then they say it, okay. Or, then you can, you know what I mean? But just chill for a second. It's totally, that's interesting.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Well, you know what? I appreciate so much. Thank you so much for being on the show. This has been great. I've got a couple ideas from you. I would like to talk with you after when we stop recording here. There's some good stuff here. A wrestle-off thing, and I want to see how we get in front of the WIAA and maybe grow our Wisconsin family. That'd be perfect. Cool. All right.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Enjoyed speaking with you. Can't wait to talk to you some more.
Awesome. Hey, thanks so much. Stick around, all right?
Will do. Thanks.